Hey guys, I'm Jordy, and this is your guide to the massive guardian blocking your progress to the upper levels of Heart of Fear, the hulking behemoth, Garalon. So Garalon, at first glance, may seem kind of difficult. I mean, all the hardest bosses in World of Warcraft are the biggest ones, right? Ragnaros, Nefarian, Cthulhu. Size equals power, of course, and Garalon should follow that pattern, but actually Garalon is one of the easiest bosses in here, so long as your raid is paying attention to a couple easy mechanics and don't mess those up. Alright, let's get into it. Garalon is a two-phase fight. The first, you kite him around as he chases down the player covered in those sweet, sticky bug pheromones. And the second, at 33%, he gets pissed off enough to put it back in his pants for a minute and turn his attention to your tanks. Some bugs, man, always thinking with their Aedeagus. Okay, so normal raid comp here, nothing fancy. The healing requirements really aren't too bad for this, so I'd consider even dropping a healer if you want, but 5 or 6 is safe early on, so just go with that. I know we will be. Alright, Garalon stands on this massive platform, waiting for you to engage him. One thing to mention before we get into his abilities, there is a wall here that goes up when you pull him that will lock you out of the room. So make sure you're far up enough before the pull so that doesn't happen to you. Moving on, Garalon doesn't have a traditional aggro table in Phase 1. He's focused on those sticky pheromones, as I said before, which will be applied about 5 seconds into the pull to the player closest to him. So, on pull, we've designated a hunter to begin, and he camouflages up close to the boss, pulls, ensuring he's the closest, and waits for the pheromones to be applied before disengaging away and beginning to move him around the room. At the very start of the fight, he's pretty quick, more on how to slow him later, but just know that the healers and range DPS will be taking the very center of the platform, so you want to get him out towards the wall and then stay in front of him, attempting to get him to each corner without cutting said corner too early. Okay, other than that, the pheromone itself has a few things involving it. First, so long as you have the pheromone debuff on you, you'll take 30,000 damage every 2 seconds, and you drop a puddle on the ground that deals extra damage. So, the idea here is to spread it around the outside edge of the room, as close as you can, while also staying out of range of the boss. Second, every 2 seconds you have the debuff on you, you get a stack of pungency, increasing your damage taken from the pheromones by 10%. This means for the first 8 or so stacks, you're not really taking all that much, but as the debuff ticks up, you'll start ramping pretty quick, and those ticks of damage will become pretty difficult to heal. To save you from an untimely death, you want to pass the pheromones to another player, preferably one that has recognized, hey, that guy needs someone to take the pheromones and kite the boss. So, let's go do that. We assign a specific order for the entire raid to follow, one by one, as it's likely every single player in the raid will need to be a pheromone holder in 25-man. Foji has a great weak aura for this in his raid pack, and using my assignment sheet, you can just import your assignments directly into it for an easy display during a pull right up here. Super handy and takes the thinking out of it. So, you have the next person in line running up to pass yours off to, and this can be kind of fiddly. We try to tell these players that the person with the pheromones should stand still, while the player coming to relieve them moves on top of them, sees that they now have it, and then moves away. We've seen it get passed back and forth before if they don't do this transfer cleanly, and it can sometimes lead to a death. So communicate it clearly to everyone how you want to do it. Speaking of dying, if someone holding the pheromones dies, the pheromones don't jump to another player upon death. You have to physically run over their corpse to grab it. But a wipe can be totally saved if someone is quick on their feet to react. Just rush over, grab it, and try to continue the relay as best you can from there. Now, I'm not 100% on this. We observed some weird behavior on the beta sometimes, where even if we had somebody run over the body to grab it, it would jump to a random player. If that happens, just be ready to turn the boss away from the raid so you don't cone everybody and save the day. TBD on what's intended, we will find out soon enough. Okay, that's the pheromones. Surprisingly, we're actually almost done with the fight. You may have noticed people attacking Garalon's legs, and yes, all 4 of them, in addition to the main body, are attackable. The base of each leg has a dotted circle around it, and if you're standing in that circle, you'll get a buff called weak points. This gives you double damage to that specific leg. Note that you can't stand in one leg circle and get double damage on the other ones, but you can cleave off of a leg with things like sweeping strikes and blade flurry, and it continues that double damage to the main body. Alright, min-maxing aside, when a leg dies, it does 3% of Garalon's total HP to the main body, and also applies a stack of broken leg to him, reducing his movement speed by 15%, stacking up to 4 times, for a total of 60%. Additionally, every 30 seconds, Garalon will mend one of his legs at random. So, keep an eye on which is up, and get it dead for some added juice and to slow him down a bit. Alright, that's the legs. Just about done. The tank mechanic is called Furious Swipe. Every 8 seconds or so, Garalon will cast this, telegraphed by a large cone in front of him, dealing 800,000 physical damage to targets in front of him. If less than 2 targets are hit, Garalon gains a stack of Fury, increasing his damage and movement speed by 10% for 15 seconds. So the idea here is to simply have both of your tanks in front of the boss at all times, soaking it. The hits are pretty chunky, so watch those tanks and be careful, healers, that you're in range of them, but do not go under the boss, as that will trigger the next thing, Crush. If any player moves directly under the boss, Garalon gets pissed that you're looking up his skirt and casts Crush, dealing 250,000 damage to all players and stunning them, and an extra 800,000 damage to anyone directly underneath him. Additionally, on Heroic, he'll cast this 30 seconds into the pull and about every 35 seconds after that, regardless of anybody being underneath him. Each of these will stress the healers, so I'd recommend you line up raid damage mitigation cooldowns like you should have learned about in bosses up to this point. Barrier, Devo Aura, Smoke Bomb, Demo Banner, all the things that we ideally know by heart now. Last thing about the crushes, it does stun the person with the pheromone, and there's a chance that they will get knocked down just as the pool drops, or their stacks get pretty high. So, we advise that you swap to a fresh person just before a crush, so that damage is lower on them. Look at the timer, swap just before, and survive. Alright, well that's primarily it, except for phase 2. At 33%, Garalon gets fed up with chasing the pheromones and finally turns his attention to your tanks. Both of them need to remain in front of the boss, and since he hits like a Mack truck, you want to roll tank cooldowns on them and burn hard, because they will only have so much juice before he overwhelms them with damage and you run out of cooldowns. One last thing here, the pheromones are still active, so you'll need to juggle it as you would normally. Just worry a lot less about moving away from the boss. You can really min-max this thing by stacking them close to each other and barely moving at all. And if you manage to juggle the pheromones, survived his crushes, and do a good job of soaking that Furious Swipe, Garalon goes down and you're halfway through Heart of Fear. Congratulations. Okay, let's talk about some tank tips. Garalon isn't too bad for you guys. You just want to be sure you're always in front of the boss and trying to contribute any DPS you can to the legs and main body while staying out from underneath him. Triggering a crush is unacceptable, and the healers might not be able to recover, so be careful and watch where you're standing. For the healers, another fight of lining up cooldowns, so plan those out. We have a rotation of 2 cooldowns for each of the crushes, and you'll be able to reset them after the 6th one and circle back around to your first set. So, plan it out. Also, any healers that do damage to heal, do your best to sit inside of that leg circle and DPS them for extra HPS. But be careful about where you're positioned so that you don't accidentally get underneath him. And watch that pheromone order and make sure to move to pick it up when you're next up. But not in front of the boss, close enough that you'll eat the Furious Swipe. And for the DPS, there are a lot of little things here to min-max. You may find this fight annoying because the legs are a bit jittery. Just do your best. Take them out and then focus on the main body. And for one or two of the crushes, you can help the healers out by rolling your own defensives. So please push those buttons, health stone, whatever you need to do to contribute to the raid's health and give them some reprieve. Also, defenses when your pheromone is over 10 stacks is clutch, as you may be out of range of the healers for whatever reason, so survive. Alright, well that's it for Garalon. Next up, the crazy ad fight of Windlord Meldrak. I'm actually not sure I'm going to do this one right away. I might skip to Amber Shaper, but for some reason, to me, the Windlord should have been Tayak, since he's got so many tornadoes in phase 2, and the Blade Lord should have been Meldrak, since he's got all this spinny blade stuff. I don't know, whatever, it's a weird quirk. If you enjoyed this video, do me a huge favor and like and subscribe. It helps me immensely, and I super appreciate it. And if you're looking for an assignment sheet and loot prio guide for all of phase 1 of Mist of Pandaria and beyond, check out my Patreon. There are a ton of great resources on there. And that's it for me. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you in the next one.